Yeah, and he tried to write everything. I have several, not really books. I don't know where I got them, but they were small press stuff of some of the other things. He tried to write cowboy stuff. He tried to write some adventures of Captain Galt,
Hmm.
about a ship out in the sea, and of course he'd been out in the ocean, so he did the ocean very well as far as descriptions. But Captain Galt is just this pulp fiction kind of stuff. He tried a lot of
Um,
things. He was never very successful in writing, um, but he would be surprised at how well he's remembered now.
yeah, it's just one of those things. Apparently, a similar story was with Kafka, right? Who didn't really publish anything during his life, and he told his best friend to burn all of his works when he died, and his
Yeah,
best friend defied his wishes, right?
yeah.
And now he's very celebrated. So Hodgson, I think, will end up sort of being in that same camp, especially, you know, if we get a a mini series or even a long epic movie adaptation of the Nightland. Hollywood, get on that, because I think that would be, you know, a mega bestseller. So I don't know what your thoughts there are.
Oh yeah. I for years I thought uh, it would make a great movie. And I hope they use just some of my dialogue so they could give me a royalty for it.
Yeah,
Probably won't. But anyway,
Hollywood
but yeah, I'd love to
producers.
see it as a good movie, as a well done movie.
Yeah, I think the original has all of the same sort of descriptions and sort of like the plot elements are there, but you've given it much more of a cinematic feel in your rewrite. And so I think that's another big element that you've added that the modern reader will appreciate. So
Well, thank you. I
thank
appreciate that.
thank you for your hard work in doing this. Um, and before we sign off, I do want you to be able to talk a little bit about your newest work that you've got out, Liberty Bell and The Last American. So
Yeah.
another fascinating, not far future, but near future work, where we've got uh, uh, America is sort of divided, right? Or just tell us a little bit about this book, because it's fascinating to me. I'm still reading it. I'm in chapter 5 or 6, I think.
Oh, okay. Basically, the Great Blackout. We digitized all of our books. The Great Blackout comes. We've thrown away all the printed editions, and the Great Blackout destroys all of our information. We lose everything worldwide. There are catastrophes. Millions and millions of people die. Um, 200 years later, a man finds a copy of quotations by famous Americans. And it inspires him to wander around the American countryside and just ask people, what do you remember about the United States? And so they tell him all these stories. Well, the stories are all wrong. Um, and the this book was actually, before I wrote the book, I actually wrote a short story, and it was called The Battle of York. Um, and it's a story from this book that he wrote called The Americana, um, which tells the story of how President General, that's his first name, President General Washington, uh, uh, Eisenhower Ironhewer, and Custard with a D, Armstrong, go to fight the four-headed monster on Mount Rushmore so that they can get the words of power and defeat the giant Britannia.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so it's all kind of fun stuff, but it's also I had one person that read it told me, he said this was really funny, but it was kind of serious too, and that was what I was shooting for, was a sort of a mythology, to create a mythological aspect of it, so that even though you read this and it's like, oh, okay, this is kind of entertaining, but you kind of get to the end and you're like, that kind of said something about America in a way. Anyway, so I wrote that short story. It was published in the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, and was published by EOS Publishing, as one of the year's best science fiction short stories. And then it's available for free on, oh, good grief. I'll think of it in here in a minute. Anyway, it's an online magazine. Shoot. Okay. Well, anyway, so I wrote that, didn't really intend on doing anything else with it. I was writing another book. And so I was driving to lunch, and we had been going, this was about 2012, and we had been going through the start of political turmoil. It wasn't bad at that point, but people were starting to become pretty disrespectful of our institutions,
Hmm.
very suspicious. Um, and I'm driving to lunch, and I just thought, you know, what if I wrote a book about somebody that really believes the Americana, that they grow up with the Americana, all these myths and stuff. And so instantly I thought, I'm going to write that book, which never happens to me. But I kind of went from there. And so the book itself is about Liberty Bell. This is 1,000 years after the Great Blackout.
Right.
She's grown up on the Americana. They live in a very small country in the south part of the United States. Anyway, she is thrown into a quest with Antonio Ice, who is a Secret Service agent.
Hmm.
And they're going to find the gold of Fort Knox, they think, which they think
Right.
is up toward Colorado, according to the legends. And so as they travel, for various reasons, the legends and myths of the Americana start to appear. They start to come to life. And so there's kind of mystery going on there, you know, what's going on, what's behind this, that kind of thing. But the book actually has about 250 quotes in it from Americans. Almost all the dialogue that you read when you encounter a historic figure is a direct quote, unless I needed some extra for the, you know, to make the dialogue work. And so you're really being given the words of people from Einstein to Edison to Jefferson to,
Oh,
you know,
really?
in
Cool.
a
That's a
way
fun
that,
Easter egg.
yeah, oh yeah. I really should tell more people that. But anyway, my whole purpose in the book, I mean, it's got a lot of humor. It's intentionally, hopefully funny, a little romance, but I wanted people when they got through with it uh, to think, you know, we live in a great country. You know, for all of our faults, and we have plenty of faults, we live in an incredible country. We have a constitution like no other in the whole world.
Yep.
And we need to defend it, we need to protect it and preserve it because it's fragile. And that's really, sometimes when you write a book, you don't know what it's exactly going to be about till you get to the end.
Hmm.
And then you say, oh, this is what I wrote about. And so that's what I'm shooting for. Now, I wrote it, I really finished it in 2014. So it
Hmm.
is not in any way reflect anything that's happened since 2016. And I tried to make it as non-political as possible. I didn't want people to read it and say, oh, he's trying to tell me Democratic things or
Like X
Republican.
or Y things, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about America, you know. So
Okay. Well, Liberty
that's the book.
Bell and The Last American, available on Amazon, right? So
Yes. Yeah.
great. Thanks so much again, James, for joining us today and
Thank you, Jess.
giving me some more information about the Nightland. Is there any final thing you'd like to leave us with? Are you still doing music projects, or you've got a new story or book under the way? What's under the radar right now?
Well, I'm doing a sequel. I have another book called The Back of the Beyond, completely different thing I won't get into, but I'm doing a sequel on it. That's going to take me a few years maybe. And then just doing some short things. So,
Okay, great.
yeah.
Well, thanks again for joining me today. And go ahead and we'll say goodbye to the internet. We'll wave away goodbye to the Nightland. Please go check out the Nightland Story Retold, available on James's website. And thanks again,
Thank you
James.
so much. I appreciate it. It's been fun.